right, so first things first, how do we do eccentric training for our legs from the comfort of our home? Okay, so the trick with eccentric training is it's not like a new exercise. It's a way to do other exercises. So for example, if we wanted to do a squat movement, the question now becomes, how do we make it harder on the way down than on the way up? And squatting is an interesting example because you'll notice that generally people, if they're older or if you're tired, it's never really the sitting down that's the problem, it's the getting up. And even more anecdotally, if you've ever watched movies and you see a man is bench pressing, they never have a problem lowering the weight.
Right.
It's lifting the weight back up. That's because eccentrically, you're stronger, okay? So I want you to focus on using your muscles at their strongest. And I would ask that you both use these bikes to stabilize yourself. And can you see me in the mirror?
Yep.
So I'm gonna actually do it over here. You're gonna watch me in the mirror. And just to be clear, you do not need to do this in an aerobics room, in a gym, using these little bikes, right? I want you to have a chair behind you just in case something bad happens, so you're not gonna fall. And I want you to have something to hold on to as you learn how to do the movement. It doesn't have to be an exercise bike. I don't anyone to ride in and be like, can I do this? I don't have an exercise bike. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is I just want you to do a regular squat movement. And we're gonna do it on a count of 2. So we're gonna do eccentric down, 1, 2. We're gonna hold it for 2 seconds, and then we're gonna come up, 1, 2. Okay, so just follow with me. 1, 2, hold, 1, 2, up, 1, 2. Okay. The first and most basic way you can accentuate the eccentric portion of a movement is simply by doing the eccentric portion slower. This is what's called time under tension, and we're going to increase the time under tension of the eccentric portion of the movement. So I'm not gonna do it this time because I don't wanna get all sweaty and have my mic fall off. So, and you're gonna start sweating and you're gonna be like, how am I sweating moving so slow? What I'm gonna ask you to do, we did 2, 2, 2. You're gonna do 6, 1, 2. And I'm gonna count it out for you. So you're gonna go down slow for 6, hold it for 1, up for 2. Okay, ready? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold it for 1, up, 1, 2. Now, could you feel it a bit more intensely during the eccentric portion? Cool. Now, a couple tricks. If you ever want to increase the resistance and again, further tax your muscles, there's a couple tactics. One is to go slower. The other portion is, and this is something that you can experiment with and just listen to your body. You'll notice that I don't want you to do a full squat. I want you to squat like 1/8 of the way. So just do this with me, squat 1/8 of the way. Do you notice how you could probably hold this for 5 minutes with no problem? Okay, so there's easier and harder points of what's called a resistance curve when you're doing weight training. Now in contrast, if you go to the very bottom position and try to hold that, you're gonna notice that's the hardest portion of the movement. So if you ever wanna make a eccentric, accentuated squat or any movement, find the most difficult portion of it and hold that for an extended period of time. Why do you want to do that? You want to do that because you're taking your muscle when it is the most forceful, eccentrically, and you're challenging it most intensely so that you activate the most muscle fibers possible, so you trigger the biggest hormonal reaction possible, so you protect yourself against diabetes as much as possible. Let's go. Down 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down. Now, some more advanced ways that you could increase resistance if you wanted to. What you can do is you can cheat one leg forward a few inches. And you can say, I'm gonna squat down, and I'm gonna try to put 70% of my weight on this leg and 30% of my weight on this leg. And here's what you're gonna notice, which is really fascinating. You might be able to do that on the way down, but if you try to do that on the way up, it will be impossible. So what you can do now, which is really creative, is you can overload, or you can eccentrically overload one leg So let's say I weigh 200 pounds, just to simplify math, which is pretty close to accurate. So it's like you're being chased by a tiger, but no crazy, dangerous, high impact movements are necessary, right? We're doing this. You could do this in your living room if you wanted to. So you can get that sort of deep, primal, hormonal cascade quietly while listening to yoga music if you wanted to in your living room. And that's really, really cool. Okay, so I want you to just try that. I want you to try to just shift your weight so that you're standing with your, let's say your left leg about 3 inches forward. And then now I want you to squat down nice and slow for a 4 count, trying to put as much weight as you feel comfortable with on your right leg. And we're gonna go down for a count of 4. And then I just want you to sit down, and then I want you to reposition your feet like you're doing a normal squat, and then just stand back up regular, okay? So jimmy that one leg forward, your left leg forward, and then we're gonna go down for a count of 4 with the majority of your weight on your right leg. Ready? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, seated, and just position your legs normally, stand back up. Okay, so we've gone through a couple different illustrations for how you can make an exercise more or less difficult during the eccentric portion. You can go slower during the eccentric portion. You can find the most difficult point on the force curve, and you can hold that. And you can use one limb with sort of all your body weight down, and then both of your limbs to lift yourself up. And you may say, Jonathan, that's interesting for squats. But what do I do for any other movement, right? But I wanted to teach you these principles because now we're gonna stop squatting. Let's come out over here because we're taking a bit of the teach a person to fish, they're good, right, rather than give them a fish and then they want some more fish. Right. Right. I think that's the saying, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that? Okay, so now let's apply this exact same logic to a back movement. So we're gonna do a row type movement. And what we're gonna use is actually these wonderful resistance bands here, which you can buy on Amazon.com for $10. And you can take them on airplanes. They're super handy, super convenient. This is the movement. This is just a regular old row. You go to YouTube, type in row. They'll teach you how to do a row, right? But now if you wanted to increase the eccentric resistance on this row, so you could bring it up for 2, slow it down on the way down, right? So we could do 2 up, hold it, nice and slow on the way down. And you'll notice right here, super easy, much easier than right here. So you could even go up for 2, hold this, and then real slow on the way down, okay? So we talked about 3 tactics. One was slower eccentrically. We talked about finding the hardest portion of the movement and focusing on that. And then we talked about using 2 limbs concentrically, right, 1 limb eccentrically. So watch this. So I just took whatever, let's say this is 10 pounds and this is 10 pounds. 10 pounds, 10 pounds, 20 pounds. And I might not be able to lift 20 pounds, but I can lift 10 and I can lower 20 because I'm 40% stronger on the way down. Another reason this is cool. Traditionally, people stop, you may have heard of the term, failure. Weight training is the only context in life where failure is awesome. Because you often want to go to a muscular failure, meaning your muscle can't do it anymore. So traditionally, people would stop resistance training when they can't lift anymore. But remember, you're stronger lowering than you are lifting. So now we don't have to stop when you can't do this anymore. We will only stop when you cannot eccentrically lower the movement anymore. So we'll continue to do this, drop over to here, lower it down nice and slow. Boom, boom, nice and slow. And you'll notice, again, this isn't a new exercise. It's just a new way to approach exercise in general. And hopefully what you're experiencing is just, this is a whole different way of thinking about movement. And what I wanted to do is just activate this in your brain. Say to yourself, like, how can I play around with maybe my existing methods of exercise such that I can actually start to do movements in a new way and maybe even try movements that I've never done before, because I'm gonna reveal a little secret that you told me before we got on camera, which is that we started talking about push-ups a little bit, and you said, I don't know if I can do a push-up. But now that you understand that you're 40% stronger eccentrically than you are concentrically, there's a chance that we might be able to have you do a portion of a push-up, which will enable you to develop the strength to eventually be able to do a regular push-up. Now, for a lot of people, a push-up is not something that they can do comfortably, but possibly lowering themselves down is, and possibly if they put their knees down, they could definitely lower themselves down. So now that we understand a little bit more about how our muscles work, different types of contractions, different impact those contractions have on our hormones, we could say, okay, push-ups are a good way to work my chest muscles. I can't push myself up, but maybe I could lower myself down. So put your knees down, and then I want you to get in a push-up position, which is about your hands are slightly wider than shoulder width apart. And then if comfortable, I want you to slowly lower yourself down. And then you really don't need to worry about pushing yourself up. I just want you to kind of stay down. So just nice and slow, okay? And then however is comfortable for you, just get back up into a normal position, okay? Now, if I asked you to just do a bunch of regular push-ups, you might say, Jonathan,
You're crazy.
You're crazy, right? But could you imagine if you had 5 minutes on a Wednesday that you could just say, hey, I'm gonna do nice and slow, 6 repetitions of 10 seconds down. And what you will find is that after you do that, you might be able to do in 3 weeks, 8 repetitions of 10 seconds down. And what you might find is a month later, I'm just gonna lift my knees up and I'm gonna be able to just do this all the way down. And then if I keep my knees down, I feel stronger. I can push myself up. And what you're doing is you're figuring out ways to unlock and tap into muscle fibers that, and this is amazing, and think about it, it's true. Many of us, because we don't get chased by tigers very much anymore, at least not typically. So there's a chance that we've never worked our type 2B muscle fibers in our entire lives. And those are the most hormonally beneficial muscle fibers in your entire body. If this leg was in a cast for your entire life and the muscles never got worked, and then today that cast came off and you were able to work those muscles, how much results could you see and how quickly could you see them? Because you're literally, those muscles are like an untapped gold mine of results in your body. Pick any exercise you want, pick any exercise routine you want, and you can increase the quality of it. You can increase the hormonal impact of it, and you can increase your protection against diabetes by focusing on increasing the resistance used during the eccentric portion of the movement. So if you've ever felt, I've tried everything and it hasn't worked, you now know a scientific fact that should give you more hope, I hope, than you've ever had when it comes to exercise, which is there is a category of muscle fibers in my body that are the most beneficial that there's a good chance I have never exercised ever. And that's really, really, really cool. Rock and roll?
Yeah.
Cool. Trina and Mariah, thank you so much for joining me today. I know this was a whirlwind of information, and certainly we'll have some follow-up videos where we show more examples of how to do this with various exercises. I really, really appreciate your time, and hopefully this was helpful. And hopefully to all our friends out there, this was helpful for you. Again, just like everything else in life, as you can see, we increase the quality of our actions, the quality of our resistance training. We increase the quality of our results, the quality of our life, the quality of our health. You are quality, and you deserve quality. I'm Jonathan Baylor. I'll see you again soon.